In this episode, we'll have a look at the BrightCast V15 from Kamerar, which is a flexible LED panel for lighting for video. First of all, full disclosure, this was sent to me by Kamerar. I did not pay for it, and they're not paying me to do this review. Also, the talking head part of the video was all shot with the Kamerar BrightCast V15 through a defused softbox. It's just right off here, camera left, my right, and that's the only light I'm using in this case, aside from the ambient light in the room. Now, first of all, what is different about this? Well, a couple of things. First of all, it's flexible. There are other flexible LED panels on the market. That's nice because you can actually get it into very small spaces, but what's also different about this is that it has LED chips instead of LED bulbs. And in this case, what's unique about the chips is that each chip can actually output both daylight colored light and tungsten colored light. So it's not as if you switch from one color temperature to the other. It's not as if you sacrifice half of your LED bulbs like you do on most traditional panels. In this particular case, you still get the full output. Now overall, the kit includes the flexible panel itself, which has some sort of wire around the edges that allows you to shape the light. And by shaping, I mean literally bending the panel in different ways, either concave, convex, however makes sense for the particular lighting you're trying to do. You then have the control frame. This is what controls the power. It has the switch and the two knobs that allow you to adjust the color temperature and the dimming. On the control frame, you also have this LED readout, which shows you not only the dim level, 0 to 255, but also the temperature in Kelvin. You then have the power cable, which on one side has a mini XLR that goes into the control frame. On the other end, you have a D-tap connector, which will go into a Sony V-mount battery or an Anton Bauer battery. And this will work with pretty much any 14-volt battery that has a D-tap output. The only thing to keep in mind is that the control frame has a sled on it for actually mounting Sony V-mount batteries. So there's not a native way to mount your Anton Bauer or other types of batteries, but any sort of V-mount style battery can be mounted right on the control frame. You then also have the cable that goes from the LED panel into the control frame. It uses a locking miniature XLR style cable. It comes with this small carrying bag, which is in a sort of a tube shape. And then if you order the kit with the AC adapter, it also comes with that. The beam angle seems pretty wide, like many LED panels. They don't specify that in the documentation, but in my looking at it, you can actually bend the light. So if you need to flood, you can actually send light in almost every direction, which is really nice. So it gives you a little flexibility there. Now, just like any other LED panel, it's really hard to cut, if pretty much impossible to cut an LED panel light because you have light coming from multiple chips on the surface. So what I find is that can create a problem, and it's not unique to the BrightCast, but you can get the multiple shadow issue where because you have multiple light sources, it can cast multiple shadows. And that looks a little strange. You can easily solve that problem by using some sort of diffusion. And in this case, I'm using the Diffuse softbox from Kamerar, which does a nice job creating a nice soft light, especially for when you're using this as a key light. There are a couple of power options. You can AC power it if you bought the AC adapter, and that adds about, $20 to the price, so it's definitely worth it in my opinion. Gives you a little bit more flexibility. And then, of course, the very nice thing is you can power it with a 14-volt DC battery, such as a Sony V-mount or an Anton Bauer. It has the mount on the control frame for Sony V-mount, so that's sort of the obvious choice here. It'd be nice if they also offered an option for Anton Bauer. Just to give you an idea of the power draw, on AC, it draws about 0.8 amps, and it pulls about 60 watts. So you should be able to power a good number of these on a single, very simple household circuit. Probably, I would say, at least 5. To check the color quality of the BrightCast, we did a little test here where we shot a color chart. In this particular case, we're looking at an X-Rite color checker video, and we used the Panasonic GH4. Before each test, before each shoot, we actually did a custom white balance for that light source and then shot the chart. And what I've done here is I've brought this into DaVinci Resolve, and we're looking at the vector scope here, just to kind of see where these different color chips fall out relative to where they, kind of in theory at least, should fall out on a vector scope. And if you don't know how to read a vector scope, the way this works is we have different colors represented here. There's a red target, magenta, blue, cyan, green, yellow, and this line right here is the skin tone indicator line. First up, we have the BrightCast set to daylight. This is 5600 Kelvin. And what we're seeing here is that things are lining up pretty nicely. So what we're looking for is each of these dots here represent one of the color chips, and we're looking for them to fall in the right places. So for example, these 4 traces you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, are all falling on the skin tone indicator line. Those are these guys over here. There's actually another one down in here as well. And they look like they're lining up very nicely. The reds are very nicely in line with the red target. Magentas are looking good. Blues are off just a little bit, but nothing to be concerned about. Cyan looking good. Green's off just a touch, but again, nothing to be concerned about. And the yellows look spot on. Now the next two are the BrightCast set to full tungsten. This is 3200 Kelvin. And the third one is an actual tungsten light. And what's interesting is the BrightCast and the true tungsten light look very, very similar in terms of their view on the vector scope. So this is very good news. What this means at practical level is that the BrightCast produces very good color quality, which will save you a lot of time because then you won't have to, in post, spend a lot of time trying to correct colors to look the way they should actually look. Of course, you can adjust the light between 3200 Kelvin to 5600 Kelvin, so you have a nice range there, which means you can match light in almost any situation. Really nice feature. The panel itself is IP67 rated, which means it's water resistant and it's also dust proof. Now, you have to keep in mind that just applies to the panel. It does not apply to the control frame or the AC adapter. So you're not going to want to huck this thing into a pool and think it's going to be okay. But if you're out shooting in weather, you'll probably be okay. I would just get something to cover up the control frame, and if you're using a battery or if you're using the AC adapter, you want to keep that out of the wet. Also comes with this bag for transport, which is very convenient. And that's what I think is really the strength of this light, is that you can take this on location. It's a tiny little package and it's super convenient. With a great color quality, it's a really nice option for working out on location. To test for flicker, which is sometimes a problem with LED lights, we reduced the overall output to 50% using the dimmer, and then increased our shutter speed to 1/200th of a second, and then again to 1/250th of a second to see if we were able to see any sort of flicker, and I wasn't able to detect any. A while back, we reviewed the Defuse softbox from Kamerar, which I think is a really nice little softbox for LED panels. I've actually used it even professionally in some of the professional shoots, and it's worked out pretty nicely. It's a very thin scrim on the front, and does a nice job. And I think it works very nicely with this panel as well. In fact, Kamerar is very careful, of course, to make sure that you're aware that this is compatible with the BrightCast. Current pricing at the time of the review here is $350 US for the kit with the AC adapter, $330 US for the kit without the AC adapter if you're just planning to battery power. So overall, there's our review of the BrightCast V15. I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. And if you've not already subscribed, make sure you do that. We'll be sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk to you soon.